Hello everyone, my name is Brandon and today I'm going to show you how I cook St. Louis style spare ribs on the Yoder YS640 Pellet Smoker. So here I'm using a already pre-cut St. Louis style. I actually got this for $6.50, pretty good deal at Meijer. When I search for these ribs, I honestly just find the one with the most fat, like striations I can find between the bones, and that's the cut I go for. Alright, so here's our rack. The first thing I do once I take it out of the packaging is I'm just looking for any of this thick fat that I just thinks it's not going to break down very well during the cook. I really just want to get the thick fat off. I really don't do too much to them. Just some minor adjustments. Most of that fat's going to break down right into the meat and give it a nice juicy flavor, like all that right there. Nobody likes to bite it in a thick piece of fat when they go for a rib. Just nice thin layers, what we're going for. Just like that. Looks good. Don't really feel anything sticking out, any bones that I'm worried about. Backside, we're pretty much going to do the same exact thing. Just going to really take this thick fat. Don't really want to do too much. Some people can trim this back too to get your ribs really even. And you can obviously use this for rib tips if you want. Normally that flap is not there on a pre-cut St. Louis ribs, but it looks like it is today. So the next thing we want to do is we want to make sure that we get the membrane off. We really want to make sure that the rub is adhering to the meat and not a thick piece of membrane that people are going to have a hard time chewing. The hardest part is getting underneath it. And then once you do, it's best to take a paper towel, try to grab onto it. As you can see, we're just going to pull that off. So this looks good to me. So now we're going to go ahead and rub the ribs. So we're going to put a little mustard on them. That way the rub adheres to the meat a little bit better. The mustard won't impart any real flavor on the ribs afterwards. And you can use whatever you want. Some people use a little bit of light oil or even water. It's going to be fine. Now I got a little small pan. I need a little bit bigger one, but this is all I got. Today we're going to be using Killer Hogs barbecue rub, and we're going to sprinkle a little bit of Our Butts Are Smoking Ozark heat, just to give it a little back end there. And for the seasonings, we want to do a medium to heavy sprinkle. We'll do a little bit of Ozark heat. Get a little back end on there. A little sweet with a little heat. I feel like that's the best crowd pleaser. It's my personal favorite too. Here we go. Flip it around. Do the same thing to the backside. Now all I'm going to do after I finish rubbing these, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to let them sit for a little bit. I really want that rub to adhere. And you can kind of tell once it's sat for a few minutes, it'll really get that like a mahogany glaze almost. And once you get that nice glaze, that's a good time to put them on. I'm using a pellet cooker, so I like to put these ribs on a little bit colder so they can get a little bit more of the smoke adhering to the meat early on there. Alright, I got the YS640 all heated up. I got it set to 250. Normally that'll allow my upper rack to hit about 225, which is right where I want it. So I'm going to go ahead and put these ribs on. Right in the middle. Those got that beautiful color on it. Now I'll sit here and I'll let this go for about 3 hours before I come back. So today we're cooking with hickory, apple, and cherry. I did about 25% hickory and then 75% split between the apple and cherry. And we are using today smoke ring BBQ pellets. So I'm going to show you guys, I'm about an hour into the cook now. Usually I wouldn't do this. If you're looking, you ain't cooking. I live by that motto with smoking. But I wanted to give you guys a good look of what the color is going to look like after the first hour. You can see it's starting to darken up. It's getting that beautiful color. That fat's starting to break down. You can see the juices on top. Alright, we are now approaching the 2 hour mark. Here's what we got. So at this point we're really going for color. I try to cook to color and not temperature. So as these get a little bit darker, that's what I'm going to go ahead and wrap to seal in that color. See some of that fat still on top. I'm a huge fan of the 3-2-1 method with spares. That's 3 hours unwrapped, 2 hours wrapped, and then 1 hour unwrapped. Alright, we are at the 3 hour mark. And the ribs have that perfect mahogany color I was talking about. That's right where I want to be. So I'm going to go ahead and pull these off and get them in the foil here. Alright, the ribs are right where we want them to be. So I'm going to go ahead and add some Parquet squeezed butter. I don't have very much left. That's probably good about there. Then I'm going to go ahead and add just some regular honey. And then I'm going to go ahead and add some brown sugar. I don't really have any set measurements for these. I just kind of give them a good lather and sprinkle. And then what you're going to do after you apply that bead there is you're going to flip them over. And then you're going to cook them now face down. So the back of the ribs will be up, and then that way it bastes itself in that juice while it's cooking. So all this juice that'll run off the back of here too will also, just to help to give it some more flavor. So the next thing we're gonna do is just gonna wrap them. Some people can put a little juice in the bottom too. I don't want them to get too soggy, so I don't do that. I just make sure when I wrap these, I get them super tight on the tin foil. Any air pockets you leave in here is gonna give that, it's gonna give the rack room to steam. And if it's steam, it's gonna ruin that really good bark that we've already developed. I'm actually gonna go ahead and wrap these a second time. Chugging along here. Smoker's pretty accurate. We're at 257. I got it set to 250. Like I said, that normally keeps the top rack about 25 degrees cooler since the burn pot's over in this area here. Alright. Like I said, we're going to keep the bone side up. Put that right back on. And now we're going to check it in about 2 hours. Alright, we're about an hour and a half into the wrapping. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a try. The way I'm looking for doneness here is just to see how far maybe the bones are extruding from the ribs. Not too much. Let's see how that juice. Another good way is to see how loose they are. There you go. You can see them kind of protruding here, starting to. I'm gonna put them back on for another half hour at least. Mix of Plowboys Barbecue Sweet 180 and Eat Barbecue IPO. This is more of a sweet barbecue sauce. This is more of a Memphis sauce. So this has got it's more of a vinegar base. Almost a half and half, but maybe a little less in the Plowboys. I really like more vinegar based barbecue. I'm not really gonna measure it either. Typically you can put this barbecue sauce in the smoker probably about a half hour before, or 20 minutes or so, and get this barbecue sauce hot. That way it doesn't slow your cook down. See how they're looking. Oh yeah. Right where I want them. Exactly 2 hours. They're right where I want them. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the last hour unwrapped. Oh yeah, you can feel the bone. I mean, I could really start to pull that bone. One of them just fell out on the other side. It's better to do it maybe if you have some gloves. Alright. Easy. I'm gonna base the back side of them first. Give it a nice, beautiful color. I did add that tin foil down there a little bit earlier in the cook. Alright, look at that. Wow. I'll tell you right now, I just lick my fingers a little bit, and that is amazing. Look at that perfect color. It's a little bit darker on that end than I typically go, but that might just be because I had that end more towards the fire pot and I didn't turn it. So that's another thing you can do, is you can maybe rotate it about halfway through your initial 3 hours, or when you put them on wrapped. That's about right where I want it, right here. Look at that. Alright, we're going to close her up. And and we're gonna give this about, I'd say anywhere from a half hour to an hour. Feeling pretty tender, so I don't want to overcook it. I like to have a little bite through and not just completely have the bone fall off. So, be back. Alright, we're about 45 minutes uncovered here. And it's hard to see because it's night out now. I'm gonna go ahead and pull these off. They look good. They look right where I want them. Alright, here's the finished product. Got that perfect little barbecue glaze on it now. Nice red mahogany color. Let's cut into them.